So imagine a weapon so powerful it can take over your entire phone, and you never even know it happened. It's a weapon sold to governments for a single, very clear mission: to fight terror and serious crime. Today, we're diving into the story of Pegasus, probably one of the most sophisticated pieces of spyware ever created. And we're going to explore how a tool that was designed to hunt criminals was allegedly turned into a tool to hunt journalists, activists, and even presidents. On the surface, this mission statement from its creator, the Israeli NSO group, it sounds pretty noble, doesn't it? It's a really powerful pitch. Here's a digital key that can unlock the plans of the world's most dangerous people. This is the official story, the one they used to sell this military-grade cyber weapon to governments all over the world. And right there, that's the central question of this whole story. When you give a government the power to secretly slip into anyone's pocket, who do they actually decide to target? Well, the answer, uncovered by this massive global investigation, is honestly way more disturbing than you'd probably think. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. To really grasp the scale of this scandal, you first have to understand the technology itself. Because what makes Pegasus so uniquely dangerous isn't just what it can do, it's how it does it. This right here, this is the real game changer. For years, right, we've all been taught, be careful with suspicious links, don't open weird attachments. But Pegasus is what's called a zero-click exploit. And what that means is you don't have to make a mistake. Your phone can be completely compromised without you ever clicking on a single thing. You could be the most careful person online and still become a target. And the process itself is just terrifying in its simplicity. All an operator needs is your phone number. That's it. They send the malware, it takes advantage of some vulnerability you don't even know your phone has, and boom, they're in. They have complete control. It's literally like having a spy standing over your shoulder 24/7. And when we say full control, we mean everything. Pegasus can turn on your phone's microphone and camera without you knowing, listen to your calls, read your private encrypted messages on apps like WhatsApp, and track your every move. It basically turns the most personal device you own into a pocket surveillance station, broadcasting your entire life to some government operator. So, okay, if the tool is meant for terrorists and serious criminals, you'd expect the target list to look like that, right? Well, a huge leak of phone numbers, all selected by NSO's own clients, tells a very, very different story. Let's take a look at the reality of who was on this hit list. The investigation was called the Pegasus Project, and it was based on this leaked list of over 50,000 phone numbers. Now, to be clear, these weren't all necessarily infected, but they were all numbers that were identified as potential targets for surveillance. The sheer scale of it is just staggering. And when you start to break down who was on that list, the picture becomes crystal clear. It was filled with the very people whose job it is to hold power to account. We're talking about nearly 200 journalists, more than 85 human rights activists, and over 600 politicians. This isn't just a misuse of a tool. This looks like the systematic targeting of the pillars of a free society. And this wasn't just abstract data. The list had world leaders on it, like French President Emmanuel Macron and South Africa's Cyril Ramaphosa. It included Rahul Gandhi, the main political rival to India's prime minister. And then, chillingly, it also included people close to the journalist Jamal Khashoggi right before he was murdered, and the number of a Mexican journalist, Cecilia Pineda, who was actually killed just months after his number showed up on this list. So this brings up a huge question. How did this incredibly powerful weapon end up in the hands of regimes that are known for having terrible human rights records? Well, this wasn't just a private company going rogue. There was a whole system behind it. See, to understand NSO Group, you really have to understand where it came from. The company was founded by graduates of elite Israeli military intelligence units, like the famous Unit 8200. Basically, the skills they learned for state-sponsored surveillance were then commercialized and packaged up into a product for sale. Now, while NSO claims it only sells to vetted governments, the reality is that every single sale requires a license from Israel's Ministry of Defense. And that completely transforms the spyware from just a product into a powerful diplomatic chip, a piece of foreign policy that Israel could then trade for political favors. And sources allege that's exactly what happened. The ability to export Pegasus was reportedly used to get votes at the United Nations, to sweeten arms deals, and to build alliances with countries like Hungary, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE, regimes that were more than eager to get their hands on these kinds of tools. The technology of control basically became a currency of statecraft. But of course, a global surveillance operation this big couldn't stay in the shadows forever. Once the Pegasus Project investigation broke the story wide open, the fallout was swift, it was severe, and the world really started to fight back. This timeline just shows this rapid-fire cascade of consequences. I mean, within just a few months of the story breaking in July 2021, the US blacklisted NSO group, which cut it off from American tech. Then you had tech giants like Apple and Facebook launching huge lawsuits. A year later, Greece actually became the first country to ban this kind of spyware completely. And by 2023, President Biden signed an executive order to restrict its use. And, the resistance isn't just coming from governments and giant corporations. Civil society groups have organized into coalitions like the Global Network Against Spyware, because they understand that protecting our data is fundamental to protecting our human rights. They are now campaigning hard for a complete worldwide ban on these kinds of cyber weapons. And that really brings us to a final, pretty sobering thought from whistleblower Edward Snowden. The story of Pegasus shows us exactly how a tool that was marketed to protect us can be turned against the very fabric of a free society. So the question he leaves us with is a big one. Now that this technology is out there, what are we going to do to stop the next 50,000 targets from becoming 50 million?